I occasionally get asked this question. So Jim, you've written this book about the evidence for God's existence from the universe, from the evidence we see in the universe. But that's a lot of cosmological evidence, biological evidence, a lot of scientific evidence around neuroscience. How could you ever be an authority in those areas? How can I really even understand the case for evolution or the case for the beginning of the universe if I'm not a PhD cosmologist or biologist? That's a big task, and I think I feel it, right? I feel the same weight that you feel as a layperson who is trying my best to understand that evidence. But let me encourage you a little bit. In criminal trials, I use expert testimony all the time. I'm going to call people in for serology, blood evidence. I'm going to call people in for DNA evidence. I'm going to call people in for materials evidence. And they're going to be PhD experts who are going to take the stand and help my jury understand what this evidence is really saying. Think about that. But in the end, none of those PhD experts get to cast a vote. It's just lay people in the jury room, just lay people in the jury who get to decide if this PhD is making any sense. Really? Well, don't we need a bunch of PhDs on the jury to figure that out? No, we don't. As a matter of fact, I will very seldom ever impanel somebody in the same discipline as I'm going to have in my trial, because I don't want their own kind of ego or sense of I know better than that expert to stand in the way of evaluating the evidence fairly. One last thing. You know, when I do this, right, I bring in 100 pieces of evidence and I bring in my 5 or 6 PhD experts. When we rest our case and the defense starts theirs, they're not going to bring in another set of evidence. Most of the time, they're going to leave the same 100 pieces in play, but they are going to call 5 or 6 new PhDs. 5 or 6 new PhD experts. And guess what they're going to do? They're going to get in front of that jury and say, you know, the other PhD, he was entirely wrong about what he said about the evidence. We have a different view. We want to share it, and we want you to believe our view. So now what happens here? I've got a non-PhD jury of lay people who are trying to decide which of these PhDs is accurate. And we do this every day in criminal trials. You can do it too, because there will be people on the Christian side of this who will be PhD'd who will make a case. There'll be people on the atheist side of this who are PhD'd, they'll make a case. And you have what it takes to sit in the jury and make a decision about which PhD is telling you the truth. You don't have to have a PhD to make sense of what the PhDs are saying. So I want to encourage you, don't be intimidated. Do your homework, read everything you can read, and use your, we call this, in jury trials, we call this common sense. Use your common sense to distinguish what is true.